She was 19 years old, walking home from a party, less than half a mile from her dorm. She never made it, and the man who was last seen with her walked free for 26 years. 26 years. Kristin Smart disappeared on May 25, 1996 from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Her body was never officially found, but the truth, the dark, devastating, infuriating truth, was buried in a backyard the whole time. This is not just a cold case. This is a story about a predator who smiled at cameras, about a university that looked the other way, about a family that lied to protect a killer, and about one podcast that finally did what law enforcement couldn't. Stay with me, because this story gets darker before it gets justice. Kristin Denise Smart was born in Augsburg, Germany in 1978. Her father, Denise Smart, was serving in the U.S. military. From the very beginning, Kristin was described as someone who lit up every room she walked into. She was adventurous, funny, passionate about art. By the time she enrolled at California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo in the fall of 1995, she was everything a parent dreams their child will be. She was 5'8", athletic build, long blonde hair. She was exactly the kind of person you remember. Her parents, Stan and Denise Smart, would tell you that Kristin had this energy about her. She made friends immediately. She called home regularly. She was genuinely excited about college life, about her future, about everything that was ahead of her. She was a freshman, barely 8 months into her university life, and she had no idea that someone on that campus had already noticed her. His name was Paul Flores, also a freshman. Quiet, awkward. He lived in the same dormitory cluster as Kristin, a place called Muir Hall. By multiple accounts, Flores had already made girls on campus uncomfortable. He had a reputation, a pattern of behavior that people noticed but nobody officially reported. And on the night of May 24, 1996, he ended up at the same off-campus party as Kristin Smart. The party was at a house on Crandall Way, just a short walk from campus. Kristin had gone with friends. She was having a good time. Normal college night. But at some point during the evening, Kristin had a little too much to drink. 2 students, Tim Davis and Cheryl Anderson, noticed her condition and walked her part way home. They were being good people, looking out for a fellow student. But then Paul Flores appeared. He offered to walk Kristin the rest of the way. Davis and Anderson felt something was off, but they let him take over. That was the last time anyone, other than Paul Flores, ever saw Kristin Smart alive. She never returned to her dorm room. Her bed was never slept in. Her belongings were untouched. When she didn't show up the next day, and the day after that, people started to ask questions. But here is where this story becomes something else entirely. The university, Cal Poly, was shockingly slow to respond. Campus police didn't file a missing persons report for 3 days. 3 days. A 19-year-old woman had vanished from campus, and the institution that was supposed to protect her waited 3 full days before officially reporting it. By then, any trail that existed was cold. When investigators did begin looking, one name kept coming up. Paul Flores. He was the last known person to see Kristin alive. He had walked her home. He should have been the first person thoroughly questioned. But Flores had an alibi. A vague, inconsistent, shifting alibi, but an alibi nonetheless. And something else investigators noticed immediately. Paul Flores had a fresh black eye the morning after Kristin disappeared. He gave multiple explanations for it over the years. He tripped. He got hit. The story changed every time someone asked. Investigators searched his dorm room. They found, and this is documented, a small bloodstain on his mattress. A bloodstain. But the technology in 1996 was not what it is today. DNA testing was in its infancy. The sample was too small to be conclusive. Flores was questioned, and questioned again. And then, he walked away. He left Cal Poly shortly after. He moved around. He lived his life. Kristin's family got nothing. No answers. No body. No closure. 4 years, Then decades, the Smart family kept Kristin's case alive. Her parents never stopped. They gave interviews. They pushed law enforcement. They refused to let their daughter's name be forgotten. But Paul Flores was untouchable until a podcast changed everything. In 2019, a true crime podcast called Your Own Backyard began focusing on cold cases in California. Host Chris Lambert became obsessed with the Kristin Smart case. He dug deep. He interviewed witnesses. He tracked down people who hadn't spoken publicly in years. He found inconsistencies in Flores' story that law enforcement had seemingly overlooked. The podcast exploded in popularity. Suddenly millions of people knew Kristin's name, and law enforcement started paying attention again. In 2020, 24 years after Kristin disappeared, investigators got a warrant to search the property of Paul Flores' father, Ruben Flores, in Arroyo Grande, California. Ground-penetrating radar showed anomalies beneath the back patio. They dug. What they found was not the entire answer, but it was enough. Forensic evidence, including human DNA, was recovered from beneath Ruben Flores' patio. In February 2021, both Paul Flores and his father Ruben Flores were arrested. Paul was charged with first-degree murder. His 80-year-old father was charged as an accessory for helping conceal Kristin's body on his own property. The Smart family had waited 25 years for this moment. When the trial began in 2022, what came out was even more disturbing than anyone had publicly known. Prosecutors painted a picture of Paul Flores as a predator, not just in the Kristin Smart case, but with a pattern going back years. Multiple women came forward to testify about their own encounters with Paul Flores. Incidents of assault. Incidents of violation. A pattern of targeting women who were vulnerable or intoxicated. The prosecution argued that on the night of May 24, 1996, Paul Flores took advantage of Kristin's intoxicated state. That what started as walking her home became something horrific. That when Kristin fought back, which she did, which is what caused that black eye, Flores killed her. And then he called his father. His own father helped him dispose of the body. In his own backyard. Ruben Flores sat in that house for 26 years. Knowing his son had killed a young woman. Knowing she was buried feet from where he cooked his meals and watched television. 26 years. The courtroom testimony was devastating. Kristin's parents sat through every single day of it. After a quarter-century of fighting, they were finally hearing the truth. The defense tried everything. They argued the DNA evidence was contaminated. They challenged the credibility of witnesses. They presented an alternative theory, that Kristin had wandered off on her own that night. But the jury wasn't buying it. There was the black eye, the blood stain, the ground-penetrating radar, the DNA, the multiple women who testified to Flores' pattern of predatory behavior. In October 2022, Paul Flores was found guilty of first-degree murder. His father Ruben Flores was convicted as an accessory after the fact. Paul Flores was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His father received 3 years. When the verdict was read, Kristin's mother Denise broke down in tears. Her father Stan, who had spent 26 years fighting, advocating, refusing to give up, said simply, "We always knew this day would come." Kristin Smart was 19 years old. She was walking home from a party. She did nothing wrong. And for 26 years, her killer lived freely. He went on dates. He held jobs. He smiled in photographs. He watched her family suffer and he said nothing. What finally broke this case open wasn't a new law enforcement initiative. It wasn't advanced forensic technology alone. It was a podcast. A single person asking the questions that should have been asked in 1996. And millions of listeners who refused to let Kristin be forgotten. Kristin's body has still never been fully recovered. Her family has closure of a kind, but not complete closure. Not the kind that comes from laying your daughter to rest. And the question I want to leave you with is this. How many other Kristin Smarts are out there? How many cases sit cold right now because the right person hasn't asked the right question yet? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to know about another case that took decades to crack wide open, stay on this channel. The next one is even more disturbing.